Hi, I'm Simon Savidge,
And I'm Melanie Sykes.
and we're back with Book Club for Exciting Times as we discuss Exciting Times by Naoise Dolan.
Yes, I love it. I love the cover, actually. It's cute, isn't it?
It doesn't, it sums up the book really well with that third toothbrush.
It absolutely does.
Because the book is basically about a woman called Ava who goes to Hong Kong to teach English, and she starts this sort of friendship relationship with a man called Julian, who is a banker there, and eventually they sort of end up living together, but we'll talk about that whole shebang later. And one trip he goes away for several months and she meets Edith, who is a lawyer in Hong Kong, and starts a relationship with her. Melody, what did you make of Exciting Times? Was it an exciting time for you?
I really loved this book. It was difficult to get into. First sort of 30 pages or so, I couldn't really get my head around it. But I actually really enjoyed it and I couldn't wait to get back to it. So what about you? Did you like it?
Did, and it was because I've heard quite a lot of mixed things about it.
Yeah.
And at first I was a bit like, what do I make of Ava? I can't quite work her out. And then I wasn't sure if I was going to love it or not. And then suddenly out of nowhere, I don't know if you felt the same, I started cackling quite a lot. This book really made me laugh, sometimes inappropriately.
Yeah, there was some funny moments. There really was, yeah. But I don't think I laughed out loud actually.
Oh, I did.
But I was amused.
One was amused. Ava is quite an interesting character, I think, because, and we talked about this briefly off the internet, in the fact that she's somebody who really overanalyzes herself and her situation. What did you kind of make of her character?
Well, I didn't think she overanalyzed. I'm usually, when people are making those kinds of mistakes or being in relationships that don't feel good, are usually not analysing it, which is why they're doing it. What I found interesting is she understood everything behind her reasons for doing every single thing, yet did them anyway. She's got real insight into her situation, which I don't think usually people have when they're in a dysfunctional relationship.
The relationship with Julian, we should say, it's kind of perfunctory. It's a functioning sexual relationship, but kind of without, and actually that doesn't take place for a while. They don't have sex for quite a long time. I think it's like 2 months or something.
Was that quite a long time for you then, Simon? That's very revealing, isn't it?
We'll talk about this more another time, thank you.
So they formed a friendship first and then they started having sex, whatever. But they were friends first, but even the friendship is slightly dysfunctional.
That's what I was going to say, because I just at first didn't really get why they were friends, because they just sort of constantly say pretty mean. I mean, people do, I hate the term banter, but people do have that banter sometimes where they can be nitpicky, but this verges on actually mean.
I would rather call it verbal sparring. And she kind of can flex her smartness and show that she doesn't really need him. And he can be very dismissive of her. And it just works for them both that way.
I felt there was something slightly up with both of them. I felt they were both quite guarded and neither one wants to let their guard down. And later on...
Yeah, but she explains her position. We don't get to hear the explanation for his position.
I wondered if it was to do, because we get to know his dad, don't we, Miles, slowly but surely as the book goes on, which at first I was like, why have we got this storyline? But actually I quite liked it.
Yeah, I liked it too.
And then we meet his mother, and I wondered if it was to do with the relationship between Miles and Florence, his parents, and how that has affected him. There's a few points where he almost broaches emotional stuff, but he always does it on text.
But he's not, nothing, did you think some of his texts were emotional?
I felt like he would give a little bit more away. It's almost like it was easier for him to communicate with her by look at me, texting like old school texting on a BlackBerry.
It was pretty cold, but not even cold. He was just really to the point, understood what he needed and what he felt, and just said it, and didn't worry about ingratiating himself with her or giving him any false hope. That's always quite an autistic way of dealing with people, because it's kind of it is what it is. She was working with his position on stuff, because actually I think she wanted more from him than he was willing to give, but she was just working with it.
Oh, that's interesting, because I felt by the end which we'll talk a bit more later, she was with him because she liked the detachment.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
interesting.
No. I agree with that. It was a function. It was a good function for her to behave that way. Also, yes, he facilitated her ability to just be a bit guarded as well. She felt safer in that.
Then obviously everything changes when he goes away and she meets Edith, and Edith is kind of like the polar opposite of Julian, really. How did you feel when like Eva came? Because I felt like the book shifted slightly when Edith appeared on the scene.
It's a mood change, isn't it? Because the dynamic's different, and their interaction and their dates were a bit more organic, and so therefore the reading felt like that. It was a warmer, fuzzier vibe.
It sounds pretty silly, but I sort of saw it all a bit brighter and a bit warmer and a bit. But I like that. I thought Naoise Dolan really, the writing there was actually really clever, because it showed the shift in the relationship, the shift in Ava's personality.
Do you know what's interesting is, like, I don't think about it actually, and maybe this is me being a bit of a donut, but I never think about it in terms of the writer writing it in a more colourful way. I think it's character-led, so it just happens naturally, as opposed to some kind of way in which it's being written that changes the landscape. It's more about the people that are now in those scenes change the landscape.
That's no. This is what I love, is when I think of it like that and then use it, and I'm like, no, you're right, because actually Ava's tone never changes throughout the book. Her tone stays very similar, but her reactions to a new character do change. And there's almost, I suppose, when we're around people, we mirror their energy a little bit more.
You know, the dates, or for want of a better word, because they're not dates at the beginning, are they? They morph into dates. They're doing like fun stuff. They're doing really nice stuff, and they're talking more openly. And because the relationship is completely different at the beginning to having a boyfriend, she's now with this woman who she's enjoying the company of, and vice versa. So of course it's going to sound different and feel different when reading it. Yeah.
Did you enjoy the setting of it being in Hong Kong?
Yeah. Have you been to Hong Kong?
No, I've always wanted to go.
I went once for 2 days, believe it or not, from London on a job. All Saints. Do you remember the band All Saints?
Yes.
They were out there doing whatever they were doing, and the Big Breakfast sent me out there for 2 days to interview them. It was just ridiculous. So I can't even really remember. It was literally a flying visit. I remember interviewing them and pretty much going home the next day, and having the best tuna sashimi of my life. And I remember that, and coming home. So I don't really have much experience of Hong Kong, and I've been on the cover of Hong Kong Elle.
Wow.
I mean, hello. So that's my only connections to Hong Kong throughout my life. But actually, I thought it was really good. I thought it was well illustrated to get a sense of the place.
Yeah, and I like the fact that I felt that you didn't get it wasn't too much, but it was very much part of the book. And I quite like that. Yeah. Sometimes I felt like Naoise Dolan was trying to compare some of the sort of politics and the way things are in Ireland with somewhere like Hong Kong. I found that quite interesting. And it's one thing that I loved that she did, and I don't know if you felt the same actually, is she would touch on some really huge topics just in a paragraph and move on. And I thought that was brilliant. So it might be about like how people in Hong Kong are allowed to vote. And it would be quite a big moment, but that was it. Or it might be that there's one point where she talks about a traumatic sexual encounter she has. And it's dealt with, and it's dealt as a whole piece. But yet, actually, Naoise Dolan only does it in 2 paragraphs. But yet, I can't quite describe it. It's like these moments sort of bloom out into the book as a whole.
Yeah. No, there was one I noticed is when she was going back to Julian's flat, when Julian was in London, and she takes Edith with her. Edith's got to sign herself in because she's not a white person. White people are allowed to come into the building without signing in. You don't have to register your white mates, but you've got to register somebody that's born and bred there. And then it's gone. It's just a sentence. And you're like, Jesus. That's why I think this book is so good, because it's got a million different layers. I don't know how she juggled them all and made it look really, really smooth. And it's almost like she tackled so much. And it's not a big book. I mean, the skill set in that is unbelievable, I think.
All the characters seem fully formed. Hong Kong was there, but without it being like, we're in Hong Kong. It never felt like she was supposed. And I did love some of the scenes where she's doing her TEFL teaching.
Oh, I love those scenes. Love those scenes. I thought that was just brilliant throughout the book, her at work, because I don't know, it reveals so much about her, so much about the English language, and just, yeah, I thought they were really good ways to move us forward and also really connect with her on a really human level.
Well, also, they're the bits that gave me quite a few giggles. So there's that bit where one of the kids she describes as a lick ass, and then she says, but it wouldn't be very appropriate to call my own student that. That made me laugh. Then the other ones where she's doing like a murder of crows, a shoal of fish, and a shallow of wankers, but I can't say that to the kids. And that was it. I was cackling away. It really, her sense of humour was brilliant throughout. And I thought some of those moments is really, they felt also kind of, and it sounds odd, but kind of her purest and her most natural, even though she felt like she wasn't. Yeah.
I thought they were brilliant, those bits. I thought they were brilliant in that internal dialogue about what she wanted to say and what she actually says. And we all do that. We do that all day, every day.
You're doing it right now.
Right, no, I'm doing it now.
There's a few scenes where she's saying the right things or what she deems are the right things, but her face is giving it away. And I love that, because I don't think authors do that often, where you're in on the outward facing mood and the inner monologue. That doesn't always become apparent, but that never stops with this book.
Yeah, and it's fantastic, because that is actually what goes on with us all.
Yeah. Naoise Dolan has spoken very publicly about her autism, and a lot of people are describing this as an autistic own voices novel, because Ava comes across as very autistic in some of her behaviours.
See, I saw him as autistic, not her. How interesting is that?
That's really, I wonder if it's, well, because also part of me was thinking, is that because she's autistic herself and has said that she is, I therefore was reading it that Ava was, because
Ava's not I think the Julian is the autistic one.
That's really interesting, because I think Ava has, but then I think we all have moments.
Can I just tell you something, Simon? I've got to say this. I forgot that the author was autistic. You've just reminded me. So for me to say that Julian is the autistic one, and I also have an autistic son, so I'm not talking out my arse. I absolutely, because he's not chasing her. She's chasing him for approval. She said that she thinks about messaging him all the time, but doesn't. And then she does, and she wants the response. Oh, autistic people don't really manipulate others in order to feel better about themselves. They've already got their stance. Do you understand? That's her behaviour of, what's the word? She's writing messages, but they're not on WhatsApp. They're on a different app that you can actually compose the perfect message. And then, I don't think his messages were short and sweet and very, very frank, and probably he put them straight into the because that's how he is and that's how he thinks, and there is no emotion with it, because it's like, well, yeah, I like you. That's why we're doing what we're doing. There's nothing more to question. Am I making sense?
No, totally. My niece and my cousin are both autistic, and I could see certain elements. And obviously, all behaviours are very different on the autistic spectrum. But I could see some of Julian's behaviour. I could see some of Ava's behaviours in that way, slightly, in the fact that.
Which way? Which bits?
When she was it was when she was saying things that she was shocked at herself for noticing she was doing. Does that make sense? So when she overanalyzed sometimes, she would then say, oh, I should have behaved like that, or maybe I was meant to behave like this. And I wondered if that was part of it, because sometimes that emotional behaviours, but that happens to all of us.
I was just about to say that.
Now, that we're talking about it, I'm thinking, no, I don't think that she is.
No, because I related to Ava in so many. Have you never been in a relationship where the person is they're happy to be in it on their terms, but it is very much in segments, right? And you don't want to hassle that person because you actually still want to see them, but they've got their own world that they want you to slot in when they're available. And I've had relationship like that, whereby I have to really think about, I want to message this person all the time, but I don't, because I don't want to bug him. I don't want to hassle him, and I don't want to appear needy. So I pretend I'm somebody else in order to be with this person. And because when I'm with this person, it's heaven. When I'm not with this person, it's a little bit like hell, like shit, but you're left in the cold a bit. And when you're with them, the sun is shining, right? So you morph yourself into somebody that you're not in order to communicate with them. So don't show too much neediness, but show desire. I did that with somebody for a really long time. And every now and again, I would think, God, I'm not being myself. So I'd say, do you know what? This doesn't work for me. I'm not going to do this anymore. And every now and again, I would be brave enough to say, sorry, I'm out. But I really found him very attractive, and it would draw me back in. But that's by the by. I related to Ava and her behaviour because I've done that myself before, but never rationalised it and understood it at the time as to why I was doing it. That's why I'm so amazed by this character. She knows why she's doing everything, but it doesn't stop her. Whereas I was doing things purely out of whatever, a desire, a need, or whatever. I wasn't psychoanalyzing myself at all. All I knew is it felt like shit. The relationships are supposed to be the mutual appreciation society, which is what she gets with Edith.
Yes. Yeah. No,
but that maybe terrifies her because she doesn't want to lose that because it feels too good. So it's better to be with something that's dysfunctional, then you're not losing too much. That's really quite normal behavior. Not normal, I hate the word normal, but it's probably what a lot of people do.
I found what Naoise Dolan was trying to say, I think, with social media really interesting, because Ava becomes quite obsessive about other people's social media. So she's trying to like find out everything she can about Julian through. And what I loved is that you've got Julian who's really crap at social media, so it makes her all the more infuriated because all she's got is like 3 Facebook pictures and she can't work anything out from that. Whereas Edith, she's all about like, she even worries that Edith sees her watching that she's liked stuff or looked at. And I was like, oh my, I've been in those moments.
Have you?
Yeah. And it was a toxic friendship that has now gone. But it was that almost kind of not wanting to troll myself exactly, but like, I don't know, it's when you just can't work out how someone feels about you. So you try and do it through social media rather than actually just going, hi, can we have a chat?
Yeah, I don't really do things like that. I have to admit.
More, can I clarify? I don't even thought before Melanie.
No, it's not a judgment. It's not a judgment. I get it. I totally get it. Somebody suggested to me. I remember. I never used to look at stories, and I barely look at them now, because I'm not really that bloody interested, to be honest. What I loved is that she worries that she's seen or liked something, but surely Edith will be like, oh, she's liked my picture or she's liked my story. It's nice if you like somebody and they like a picture of you.
Oh no, I totally agree with that, but I think it's also that moment, and the bit where I felt like I was seen was when she even knows that if you go to the next person's story and go backwards, you can peek at what they've done, but it doesn't show that you've looked.
Yeah, I know. My brain shut down at that point. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. But I was like, oh, I know that for the future now. But no, I think
you did. You did. Don't lie. You were like, yes.
I think it's more that I understood that because when her and Edith fall out, she doesn't want to, I don't want to use the word even validation, but she doesn't want to be the one to look first or to be perceived as looking first. And I just thought the way Naoise Dolan looked at how social media is affecting our lives, I thought that was fascinating, because I thought it that I don't think there's a lot of books that have come out recently that are sort of social media novels that I think have gone really hard at it and it hasn't worked. But I think this one, she does it really, really brilliantly. Can we talk about Edith a little bit more?
Yeah, should we? I liked her.
And also, I think we need to talk about how it all changes when her and Edith split up, because that threw me, that bit of the book. I wasn't expecting it. But,
and so why did it throw you? Because you weren't expecting it, because you've never read it before.
No, but you know, sometimes when I'm going through a book, I'm like, I start to try and predict what's going to happen.
Oh yeah, because you do the Mrs. Marple thing. You see, I don't do that. I just take every word as and when they come, and I formulate as I go. Like, I don't try to think about what the ending is, but that's just the way your mind is. We know this, Mrs. Marple.
Edith is, I just, as soon as, and I think it's why I say that for me, the book felt like there was a shift from the author, but actually it wasn't. It was the character, as you said. She just felt like a breath of fresh air. And she was just lovely in who she was. What did you think of Edith?
I thought she was a really lovely person, fully rounded, not afraid to love, not afraid to be herself. I know she said that she didn't tell her parents that she was a lesbian, but she was, and she'd been out in uni, but then she'd gone back in the closet again. So there's that going on. But she's very even honest about that conversation about her sexuality and how she's dealt with it. She's interesting and interested. I keep saying that at the moment. People that are interested and interesting, I want in my life, you know. And I think she's that.
Yeah.
And obviously Ava really enjoys it, but is too scared to lose it.
But I think that's because she likes Edith so much, she's too scared of, and also because I don't think Ava can ever quite work out why anybody is with her, let alone who that person is, be it Julian, who's distant and it's all a bit functional, or Edith, who is very much more in the moment with her. And I have to say, and this is going off on a tangent though, what I bloody loved about this book, and I've only just thought about it, is Ava's sexuality is never labelled. It's just what it is. And I really, really, really thank Naoise Dolan for that, because I think we get way too hung up on that and the whole bisexuality. But at the same time, it does reflect bisexuality without it being labelled. Ava is who she is. She loves she sleeps with who she sleeps with, and she loves who she loves.
Yeah. No, it does. It's just an experience. We just find out her experience without having hammered home what her label is. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's just her storyline without having to explain it.
I love the fact that Edith was so sure in her own sexuality, but I love the fact that it looked at the cultural issues for her around that, and the fact that she couldn't tell her family. And again, it didn't feel like that was done to make a point it was just fact. She didn't make it the main focus of the book, but it was very much part of it, like Brexit. Brexit is discussed a lot in this book, in little moments here and there. But again, I just thought how deftly done that she sprinkles in all of these things, and they all make the book without any one of them being a sole focus of the book, because the sole focus is Ava.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I don't even know what to add to that, because it's perfectly said. It really is. It's about her relationships with two people on the backdrop of all that there is to have a backdrop about, without it being too intrusive. But you know where you are, you know the climate in which you're in, the political climate. You just know where you are all the time. I loved it. I really did. I think it's fantastic.
I really, 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 really enjoyed it. I think we would both recommend you could have an exciting time reading it, exciting times, and having a right old natter about it afterwards.
Well, we have, that's for sure.
We certainly have. So, on that note, oh, she's already revealed it.
Oh, I'm revealing, sorry.
You have chosen our next read. What is it?
Do you know what? It's Graham Norton's new one. I've never read a Graham Norton. I was desperate to do so. I haven't got a clue what this is about. I still haven't read the back of it. I just know that everybody's raving about his writing ability, and I like him. So for me, that's enough for me to open this book. What about you, Simon?
I have read his two previous novels, and I thought they were bloody brilliant. Genuinely, A Keeper, his second novel, is one of my favourite, but it's so cleverly done. And I think because he's a really good observer of people's behaviours and the things they say. And I feel like he's a bit of a magpie for it all, and he puts it all into his books. And also, I know that this has got links to Liverpool, so I'm very excited for that. If you would like to win a copy of Home Stretch, all you have to do is let us know in the comments down below a book that you've really loved this year that's out in paperback that we might want to read in the future as a book club pick.
That's a good idea, yes.
So we'll be back talking about this in May, hopefully, fingers crossed, together in a bookshop. I mean, imagine.
Yeah, I hope that happens. Let's just make it happen, yeah.
Get reading. And obviously the competition to win a copy of this will close within the first week of this video going up, because you're going to need to get it in order to be able to read it with us. But until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And from me.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.